Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that has taken us on a wild ride from mockery to redemption. Patch 2.0 has come down like a blessing from the gaming gods, turning this digital disaster into the futuristic dream that we were all promised. And just when you thought it couldn't get any better, along comes the Phantom Liberty DLC, strutting in like a true champ and leaving the most bitter of sweet tastes in our mouths. It's time then to bid farewell to this sultry mistress who, despite the pain it caused us, remains an absolute stunner that we crave more of. So get yourself a cuppa and let Reggie provide you with 2 reviews for the price of 1 regarding gaming's most controversial release. Let's start with the re-review of Cyberpunk's base game, with the Phantom Liberty review coming halfway through this video. Now, you lovely people answered a question I posed, which was, shall we re-review a game and change its original score if the content is significantly different post-launch? Well, 77% of you wise souls said yes, it's the fairest way to review a game, and I wholeheartedly agree here. Fundamentally, critics and the like can look at the launch of Cyberpunk and quite rightly shit all over it, but when developers come good, it's only fair to go back in with open eyes. So Cyberpunk is based in Night City, a dystopian future where society has fallen hard and is obsessed with sex, debauchery and crime. Think Las Vegas. Now, in this chaos, folks are all jazzed up with cyberware, so robotic limbs for epic jumps and fancy robot eyes for scanning everything in sight. In this murky world, you play V, one of, if not the, most annoying main characters I've ever played in a video game. As V, you are a contractor doing shady deals with every gang and crook in town, but V's got a problem in the form of an AI in her noggin, which is causing more glitches than Stephen Hawking driving into a lake. And guess who voices this AI? Well, it's none other than Keanu bloody Reeves. Now, the story kicks off with a bang, but then it sort of putters along, giving us hours of dull plot lines and character introductions you couldn't care to remember. With this story, you get to craft your own V, whether it's a bloke or a bird, and yes, you perverts out there can indeed customise the booby size. Obviously, I went for a lady V, with a bit of a reputation as having the biggest eyes in town. So my issue with female V is simple in that her script is about as exciting as watching Scottish football. She constantly sounds like a moaning emo teenager, as if she'd rather be at home crying to the breakup of her favourite band. Sometimes she'll have a sharp tongue with strangers that is completely unwarranted, who are just trying to help you out, and other times she'll come across as being bored stiffless. You can practically hear the studio effects taking place when her lines are delivered to try and bring life to them. One minute she's whispering, the next she's spewing half sentences, giving Valley Girl vibes and being a right snarky little Her character is all over the shop, and I'll be honest, the choices you make in the dialogue barely make any difference to the outcome throughout the whole story. So with such a below average protagonist to play with, the best character of all is the one that you can't actually play. No, not Keanu Reeves, but instead Night City. CD Projekt Red crafted a masterpiece with this bustling metropolis. This review has been the most difficult I've ever edited, and that's down to the way Night City presents itself. Much of its dystopian character is delivered via its outdoor advertising, in the form of digital billboards and screens that sprawl throughout. You'll be blasted with soft porn, hookers and sexual imagery no matter the product that is being advertised. Tits and arse will be thrust into your face as if you're on an Ibiza booze cruise, and I'm sure many a Tommy Tank has been salted after playing Cyberpunk. But it ain't just the saucy tone, it's the architecture too. Night City feels alive, like a proper city should. You've got dodgy alleyways, just dark enough to make you feel uneasy, freeways snaking through major areas, and let's not forget the vertical nature that's on offer too. Bridges for pedestrians lead to bustling plazas, elevators take you soaring through buildings onto major walkways, and every nook and cranny is packed with detail. Honestly, there ain't a city in gaming that feels as real, as believable in both its vibe and its design. Exploring Night City is a bloody delight, and one that is not easily forgotten. Surviving in Night City ain't no walk in the park either, not with our obnoxious V leading the charge. The latest patch, the Grand Rewrite as it should be known, has turned the whole RPG game on its head. Originally your character stats were linked to clothing, meaning you'd be dressed like a nutter from a mental institute in the world of Harry Potter. You'd dress just so that you could get your armour and skill points where you wanted them. Well, hold on to your knickers, because that's now ancient history. Instead, everything comes from your cyberware, so your armour, your perks, your skill buffs, to name a few. The skill tree, you ask? Totally redone. You've got real reasons to pick your playstyle now. No more running to some dodgy back alley doctor like you did pre-patch just to add the odd module to increase your cyber capacity. Instead, you're now in there constantly, upgrading yourself in every way possible, making Obamacare wince at the sheer costs involved in making you a proper legend. And let me say, it's addictive stuff. You're itching to splurge those points you earn on missions, making your character the dog's bollocks, the bee's knees, the dog swinging cherries. Now, I ain't gonna lie, Reggie had a bit of a brain fart and thought his skill tree was locked until level 20. Turns out he was reading the screen upside down. You can unlock perks early doors, so don't be a daft twat like me. What this does is that it makes you give a toss about your character, something I never thought possible when I first played Cyberpunk. But the improvements don't just stop there, people. Now, the core gameplay was always decent, don't get me wrong. It was a solid open playground in Night City where you could do whatever tickled your fancy, drive around, hack into computers, buy all sorts of gear, you name it. The snag was the sheer bonkers execution of it all. Shoot someone square in the face? No biggie. The cops would magically appear right behind you. Try to make a swift exit in a car, they'd just wave you off and let you vanish into the distance, off to commit more atrocities before looking to teleport right back in front of you further down the line. But behold, CD Projekt have stolen GTA's wanted system, and there is no shame in that. Now the coppers will chase you down in their vehicles and try and ram you off the road before going full shootout mode on you. It might sound like a minor tweak, but trust me, it adds much needed consequence and immersion to a game that was crying out for it. Plus, the patch has squashed nearly all the major bugs. Now you can buy new vehicles from computers, own your own swanky apartments, which to be fair was a welcome addition in a previous patch, and yes, you can dress your character as a sexy minx without worrying about stupid bloody stats. Even with all these changes, the AI is still as dumb as a bag of nails, so I've had moments where it all worked beautifully, where cops gave chase and my life was on the edge, but I wanted to keep testing, and well, as you can see, I'm on a murderous Reggie rampage and no cops came to me, so instead I went to them. I shot at their cars, I shot around their heads, I even shot their mates in the face, and they did the square root of fuck all. So I'm a little bit confused here, to be honest, if this is a bug because I'm on a main mission or if it's a temperamental system at heart, and there is more teething problems too. I can't ignore the fact that I wish they'd put more elbow grease into the vehicles themselves, especially the wonky handling that makes it feel like you're sliding around on a load of jizz that stems from this horny city. It's a bit weird considering the tech wizardry that exists in Night City, but there you go. On your travels you'll be shown the rawness of what Night City has to offer. Here we see gang warfare where a random mid-city battle comes into full play. I obviously did the sensible thing and took cover to ensure my V was not caught in the crossfire. You can never be too careful, my Padawans. Now there's been thousands of tweaks and updates, too many to rattle off, but what CD Projekt have achieved here is taking that core gameplay loop and ramping it up a notch. They've smoothed out the rough edges and given you a sandbox that's an absolute hoot to frolic about in. No review of Cyberpunk can ignore its remarkable graphics. Now, I ain't gonna bore you all the technical nitty gritty like those tech wizards over at Digital Foundry. They're the real pros there, so do check out their videos for the good stuff. Instead, I'll spin you a different yarn, painting a picture of the effect that these graphics have in terms of the story it tries to tell. First off, Cyberpunk's 2.0 patch introduced DLS 3.5, a wizardry that brings sharper images, especially in the reflections department, coupled with a grand boost in frames. So what used to be a stuttery mess now glides nicely across all types of PC setups. I'm recording in 4K on a beefy 4080, and I barely noticed the difference when switching from DLSS quality mode to balance mode. Yes, it's a powerhouse of a graphics card, but compared to where we were, it's like playing a whole new game. This magical transformation allows us to truly soak in the game's art style, particularly the use and direction of light. Lighting is the secret sauce that breathes life into Cyberpunk. Ray tracing is the star of the show here, painting interiors with reflective neon glows or muted shades. And oddly, this never feels overdone, even though it's prevalent wherever you go. You see, the lighting sources are carefully chosen to create ambience, not steal the spotlight. As you stroll the streets, Night City's dazzling lights almost seem like a facade, because underneath lies a darker, murkier underbelly with crime lurking in every shadow. The lighting also moulds the way you engage with characters, bringing their swagger to life, casting shadows across their faces, showing the deep-seated mistrust that these characters have for one another. Now, if we're talking vibes, Night City is practically a twin brother of Blade Runner. It's like they cut and pasted the atmosphere from those iconic movies straight into Cyberpunk. The city feels dreary yet modern, with pink hues piercing the darkness and glass, metal and stone blend together, bouncing light in every direction. This isn't just a technical marvel, my friends. If Night City is the main character of Cyberpunk, then the lighting is its heartbeat, pulsing with life and intrigue. It's a showcase of its dystopian character. And as we peel back further graphical touches, you come away even more impressed. Cyberpunk is a spectacle of particle effects that'll leave you wetter than an otter's pocket. Take for instance the volumetric smoke. It's everywhere, swirling and curling around like a dancing Britney Spears complete with knives. I particularly relished the moody vibe it added to interiors, where characters puff away, enveloping the scene in cancerous clouds that practically waft in your face like an unwelcome elevator fart. Then there are the weapon effects and particles ricocheting off walls as enemies meet their fate, and their limbs fly in all directions like a macabre fireworks display. But let's talk texture quality too, because it's top notch. I found myself marvelling at the intricate details, something that hit me even harder after trudging through the vast NPC-filled expanse of Starfield, which comparatively looks like static mannequins. Cyberpunk's character models, superb. Absolutely superb. I searched high and low, my discerning eyes hungry for flaws, but there was nothing to fault, not a single pixel out of place. In fact, there isn't anything to fault when it comes to the graphics, and patch 2.0 just adds further to an already beautiful game. I'm convinced Cyberpunk will still look immense 10 years from now, because it isn't just a graphical marvel, but rather a timeless work of art in a digital form. And so on to sound. Cyberpunk is a full-blown auditory experience. The soundtrack might not have been my cup of tea, but hey, music tastes are as varied as the neon signs, and I can't deny it fits the genre perfectly well, but it's the sound effects that left me most impressed. Picture this, you're strolling down Jig Street, the red light district within the game, a place that throbs with life and penis blood. Your ears are constantly treated to a cacophony of delights, the distant hum of cars as they drive along the outer roads, the lively chatter of vendors and hookers, and the digital onslaught of moaning sex sounds peddled by the advertising. It's an orgasmic delight for your ears. Night City isn't just a backdrop, it's a living, breathing entity, and the soundscape gives it a pulse. But I will say the voice acting is a bit of a letdown. Now, Keanu Reeves, the shining star, delivers as expected, yet there's a peculiar choice in how they handled his mega stardom. His script is sometimes wrapped in cryptic riddles, his delivery a tad flat, I'd argue. The emotional crescendos never quite reach their peak with him. And then there's our female V, a character whose voice work feels like a soured pint in a pub. From my view, it's a hit and a miss in the sound department. Some parts are damn near perfect, while the story-driven bits, they drag it down. So there you have it, my fellow gamers, the revamped review for a revamped Cyberpunk. Back in the day, we handed it a 7 out of 10, not because we thought it was a total disaster, but because it left us wanting. Disappointment lingered in the air, it lacked cohesion, meaningful character progression, and offered little challenge, especially when you were on a wild murder spree through Night City. Plus, let's not forget the fact that you practically needed a supercomputer to make the game shine. But times have changed. Patch 2.0 has transformed Cyberpunk into the fully fledged shooter it was meant to be from the very start. It's a visual marvel, a technical spectacle that now stands proud and tall. The disjointed pieces have found their place, forming a seamless and immersive experience. It looks stunning, it plays really well, sounds rather delicious, yet it's not without its flaws. The pacing falters, and the story only truly sparks to life in the later chapters. But despite these hiccups, Cyberpunk now earns a solid 8 because it's a game reborn, a phoenix rising from its own arsehole. And so we come on to Phantom Liberty, a story-driven piece of DLC that elevates Cyberpunk to new heights that you sometimes question if this is even the same game. Yes, people, it's that good that I'd argue the DLC actually becomes a necessary part of the game versus it being a luxury add-on. So to be spoiler free, what we have here is a spy thriller with Idris Elba taking the stage as the lead. CD Projekt Red weaves a tale so tight, so engaging that it's embarrassing to compare it to the base game. They've opted for a more structured approach, less freedom in exchange for a narrative that grips you like Johnny Two Shoes Vice. Linear exploration and scripted events become the norm, but they're executed with such finesse, such style, that you won't mind the constraints. There's a particular sequence, and no spoilers, fear not, that had my jaw kissing the floor. I had to pinch myself to remember I was still in the same Cyberpunk universe. Walls shattered, particle effects danced before my eyes, and NPC companions shouted over the chaos. The intensity didn't let up. The shootouts, they're confined, demanding the very best of your wits as you strategically utilise the limited cover. For once, I actually felt vulnerable, mortal even. It was a challenge I relished, a fair fight in an unfair world. It left me yearning for more, hoping for a blend of this structured brilliance along with the open world freedom of the base game. And the script, it climbs a whole new peak with Phantom Liberty. Idris Elba, pure brilliance. No offence to Keanu, but Idris embodies his character with such finesse, such depth that you can't help but be captivated and wished he was the main movie star all along. As for V, well, yeah, she's still annoying and smarmy as ever, but the story is such a roller coaster of twists and turns, delivered with masterful precision, that you can forgive her little ways. Here, decisions actually matter. Every choice, every twist, it all shapes the narrative in new ways. Cyberpunk through Phantom Liberty has ascended new heights. Now, we spoke before about the rewrite of the character's abilities and perks in Cyberpunk Patch 2.0, and Phantom Liberty delivers you another branch to focus on. Again, to avoid spoilers, I won't explain why they exist, but rather to say the abilities in question add another powerful subset to your arsenal. Now, personally, I never really found myself utilising these abilities as much as I would have liked, but that's more down to my particular playstyle than them not being useful. But I suspect we're going to see many of you creating some rather wonderful playthroughs on YouTube showing how mighty powerful you can be. But hang about, what really shines here is the new district called Dogtown. It's a proper dive that makes the rest of Night City look like Beverly Hills. The sidewalks are cracked, the buildings are falling apart faster than a Jenga tower, and the whole place reeks of desperation. Every nook and cranny tells a tale of survival against all odds. Everything here then, it feels fresh and new, and whilst I won't give a full graphical analysis like I did for the base game, know that the same beauty flourishes within, except here it's grittier, more real. Instead of neon lights blinding you at every turn, you instead got dust, grime, and a sense that this place has seen better days. It's like the backside of a dog, rough around the edges, but with a story to tell. It surely takes inspiration then from Las Vegas, with this Luxor-style building towering over the rancid streets below. It's a shame then that in the base game we didn't see the inner city districts change in complexion like it does in Phantom Liberty, with more variety on offer. Dogtown then is as beautiful and impressive in its own dark, twisted way. The mission variety here is like a buffet of choices too, enough to keep you chomping away for a good 20 hours or more. And let me say, these streets in Phantom Liberty, they're not for the faint-hearted. Every mission, every job, it's all got that sense of danger, making you feel like you're walking a tightrope without a safety net as security roams the streets. What's even more of a revelation is how seamless Phantom Liberty slots into the main game. You don't get banished off to some separate realm, instead it integrates itself into the fabric of Night City like it's been here all along. I started fresh right from the scratch, and when I hit that mission called Transmission about 10 hours in, bam, the DLC unlocked like it was meant to be there all along. You can dip in and out of Dogtown without a hitch, and it feels weird to me now that this was never part of the original Cyberpunk experience. So Phantom Liberty is a bit of a heartbreaker, truth be told. It's so bloody good that it's like a love letter from CD Projekt Red to us, the players. They've nailed it, perfected the formula, and then they drop the bombshell. This DLC is the swan song for Night City. They're closing the curtains, shutting the door, and leaving us with this beautiful, tantalising taste of what could have been all along. It might have felt like CD Projekt Red laughed in our faces on Cyberpunk's initial release, taking all our money to the bank, but here it's quite the opposite. The fact it will be our last venture into Night City is perhaps the biggest fuck you that CD Projekt Red ever gave us. The definition then of bittersweet. And with that, my lovelies, have a wonderful day. Reggie out.